starting the recording in English. Excellent. Good afternoon. Good evening for some of you joining us from a little bit further away. And thank you so much for coming back online for this very last session in the course on the extension of social protection to migrant workers, refugees, and their families. And as you already know by now, this is the session where we leave the spotlight free for you, and we will ask you to take the floor and walk us through the results of your group discussions. And I'm very happy to also welcome back our colleague Samia Kaziaul from the HQ, from the ILO HQ in Geneva, joining us to also provide a little bit of feedback to the work that you have been carrying out in the analysis of your personas. In terms of how the session today is going to be structured, we will go, I would say, in order of how the groups are shown on your eCampus page. So just for additional clarity, I'm going to post the order in which we're going to call the groups to the floor in the chat. So we will start with group 1, which is Pedro. And then we will pass to our colleagues who will present in Arabic with the group called working on the persona called Mohammed. Then we will go back to the English-speaking cohort with Igor, and then back to our Arabic-speaking colleagues for Alina, and then finally we will conclude with Luz Marie. So it's a lot of groups to be going through and a lot of information to be presenting today. And we need to, I would like to build in also a couple of minutes after each group presentation for a little bit of feedback. So I'm going to try and I'm going to ask you to try and stick to the timings, 10 minutes maximum per group. I will let you know either through the chat or by actually breaking up your presentation when you're getting closer to the deadline, and there may be 1 extra minute of tolerance, but not much more. We're going to be a bit strict with the time today. As usual, the session will be recorded. The recording will be posted on the eCampus. Copies of the group work presentations are also there, but they've already been submitted on the eCampus, but we will create a section from which you all will be able to see each other's submissions. So if you have additional feedbacks or comments that you would like to share, you will have a space to do that on the eCampus. But in the meantime, please also be mindful of the fact that after each group's presentation, we will see if there are any questions or comments from the other groups. So try to pay attention to what each group is presenting, because you may have something to contribute, maybe some comparison, some contrasting information to what you have been covering with your specific persona. So try to keep an eye out for anything that might be relevant from the other groups. And then we'll pass the floor to Samia for some remarks on the technical content and the alignment with the, let's say, with the technical framework and content of the whole course. So in the chat, you see the order. I would like to ask group 1, so the group that has worked on the Pedro persona, to start preparing. If you have a spokesperson already, I know that your coordinator was Niha, but I don't know if you're going to present, if just one person is going to present, or if you're going to share the presentation, maybe please let me know. And also please feel free to start sharing your screen.
Okay. Hi, Mickey. Hi,
Hi.
everyone. Hi. So that would be me, the
Excellent.
spokesperson. I just need to see there was one last change. Sorry. Okay, let me share this. Is it possible to see?
It's starting to show up. Yes, it's charging, and
Okay,
now we see,
great.
so you can go to the full screen presentation mode.
You good? Okay, so let's start. Yes, we had the first group. We were 7 in our group. You can see the name on there, but they're also on the ITC campus. So I will be jumping right into our case. And our case was Pedro. He is a seasonal migrant or agricultural worker. He's 62 years old and from Guatemala. And he has a family with 5 children and a wife with diabetes, currently hosted in Mexico or Mexico. Um, yeah, working in the as a temporary migrant worker, I said, in the agriculture sector. So he's mostly in avocado harvest and he's engaged in temporary work. He has worked for 15 years, but was only in Mexico, was only officially registered there for 50% of time. There is a error there, of the time paying where he was paying contributions to the pension funds as well as to other schemes. And he was also partially covered for his expenses through his employer there. When not employed in Mexico, he takes up casual work in Guatemala in the informal economy, but there he was not contributing to Social Security while he worked for 15 years, so he's not entitled to receive any Social Security benefits. And in addition, he worked in the agricultural sector in Kunasa for 5 years with contribution to the Social Security. As said, he unfortunately has a diabetic wife. His own health is deteriorating. He's also planning to go for a pension. He's quite old, as we've seen, he's 62 years, and he still has 2 children who are going to school. So the first question was around what would be the most important social protection benefits for Pedro and his family. And we kind of said, okay, let's just identify the first 3 ones that we found the most relevant ones. And that would be medical and health care, given the urgent need of medical care for his wife and for himself. So we're kind of assuming that also his wife and his family would be covered through that. And there has been a lot of out-of-pocket expenses that he needed to face. We also said that work injury benefits would be very important for him because of the hazardous nature of the agricultural sector, often having a lack of tools or protective equipment, long working hours, not really being well facilitated. And yeah, that would apply particularly in Mexico, where he's employed and where he is actually contributing to the Social Security. And then we have old age pension benefit. As we said, he's quite old, so we would also like to kind of retire to enjoy his life after work. So that would be for long-term income security after the retirement. Okay, so the second question was around challenges faced, especially by agricultural migration or migrant workers and the policies that could be addressing these matters. And so the challenges are mostly temporary, so they are very short term. There are gaps in between. It's very unpredictable, and it's very largely informal. So it's not very clear as to when exactly they will have formal employment. And there are long work hours, high risk of injury and illness. It's very hazardous and physically demanding nature of work. As said, may lack adequate personal protective equipment or also lack access to water, sanitation, and basic health facilities in the areas where they work, exposure to the extreme weather conditions, and limited access to information as well. And also on OSH-related information. They also often are not really organized, so there are not really net platforms that would represent them in a higher levels. Challenges faced in regards to legal barriers, there is often an exclusion of agricultural workers from labor and social security law, contributing to a high level of informality in the agriculture sector. We have often short and unpredictable duration of unemployment. We have a high labor mobility between different countries, leading to an inability to meet minimum requirements or eligibility conditions for social security benefits. So these would need to be adapted in order for them to meet it. Lack of access to social protection for also dependents. Family reunification is often not allowed, and primary income earners are not working where their families reside. So they're also was an indication that he is often sending 70% of his remittances to his families in order to cover their expenditures in Gumala. And there are many, there's a big lack of multilateral and or bilateral social security agreements, especially around agricultural migrant workers, and especially when it comes to covering all the 9 branches of social security. Some practical barriers here, as said, there's a lack of organization, there's an absence of social networks, there's also a lack of information and language that they would understand, and also a lack of really knowing their rights. There is a lack of documents, often also there's no formalized employment, so employment contracts may be lacking or maybe in wrong languages. So then that also doesn't work for the social security systems. The income is often low and highly fluctuating, so it's hard to predict. There is a lack of enforcement and labor inspection, and the difficulty to access the justice and grievance redress mechanisms also because they're often located very remotely, and lack of trust also due to not being really informed, which would lead the workers and the employers to avoid paying social security contributions. And we have administrative barriers from the remote and isolated location. Policy options to extend social protection. So that's something that we would apply in general to ensure that the migrant workers are covered by the national labor and social security laws, and then to ensure that this coverage is extended to the migrant workers as well. So from the national to the migrant workers, ratification of international instruments, the different policy instruments that were also given in the document that was uploaded to these migrant seasonal agriculture workers, including fundamental conventions, convention on formalization, social protection, labor migration and employment, and the conclusion and enforcement of social security agreements to assure the portability so that the 2 countries would be working together, and a strengthening of enforcement of legislation frameworks, because as we said, often there are no inspections and other administrative cooperation is also lacking. So we said, okay, there would be unilateral measures that both countries could be taking. That would be first for the country of origin and then for the country of destination. That would be establishing national social protection floors, for example, allowing nationals working abroad and their dependents to acquire or retain membership, so to remain affiliated, to incorporate some more flexibility in the design of social security schemes so that they could be enabled to meet the qualifying conditions and the minimum requirements. Or to make retroactive payments, for example, for missed contributions, to exempt them from some of the conditions, or to authorize also lump sum payments if they're coming in retroactively, or also when they're leaving the country to go in there, to leave their country of work so that I'm providing subsidies. So the country of employment, that would be the other side of it, would be to also establish national social protection floors, which enshrines the migrant workers' right to social security, also the flexibility that we discussed. Now from the other side, as such, right? So if they're leaving, to have the lump sum payments included, to retract that amounts, or also some more flexibility, like a reduction of the minimum years, and the facilitation of an access to health care for migrant workers and their families. And we also said, in addition to this, there would be complementary measures to address administrative, practical, and organizational obstacles to help them kind of leverage the policy options to really make the most out of what is in place. So information and services take into account the remote work location. So to have more offices around the country, to have and to mitigate the long hours of work, the short stays and the other obstacles, to have outreach programs, so to use mobile units to facilitate access to information registration, the payment of social security benefits, and the access to grievance redress mechanisms, the local offices, and then also to facilitate access to social security through digital services so that they don't need to travel all the time. And that at the other side would also require that we enhance the digital literacy and the means that they're having so that they can actually tap into these digital options. Then the third question was around how to ensure the portability of benefits. And we said the key mechanism would be a bilateral social security agreement, which would between Mexico and Guatemala, so between the country of employment and the country of origin, and which would need to include at least the following provisions. So the totalization of the contribution periods, the portability of the benefits, the maintenance of the acquired rights, the quality of the treatment, and to avoid double contribution. In order to ensure effective enforcement, we also said it would be important to institute coordinated administrative mechanisms so that this can actually be implemented, and that would include digital systems to monitor contributions and to facilitate the transfer of funds. So that is registered. The last question was around how many years of contributions would Pedro have already accumulated if during his entire career he would have contributed to Social Security. And his case study is given as that he worked in Mexico for 15 years, but he only contributed for 50% of these 15 years, so that would be 7.5 years. The total employment duration in Guatemala is 15 years, but he didn't contribute there at all, so this would be 0%. And then the total employment duration in CONASA, in addition to the other two, was 5 years, where he contributed throughout the full time. However, that is as to the case study. So if that would be perfect, and he would have paid Social Security contributions throughout his work period, we would have a very different picture. And that would be 15 years in Mexico, 15 years in Guatemala, and 5 years in CONASA, which would add up to 35 years of contribution. As to the case study, we understood that none of these years overlapped. So that would actually already be complete as such. So we can add up all the 35 years. And that's it from us. So I think I stayed within the time. I would give my colleagues the chance maybe to also speak, and then that's back to you, Mickey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and thank you to all the group that worked on the Pedro persona. I think, so from my side, indeed, excellent timekeeping as well. So thank you for that. I will maybe let Samia share some feedback on the technical content if that's fine with her. From my side, it seems to me that you've covered the steps that were required in the guiding questions quite thoroughly. So thank you for that. Specifically on I think on the identification of the major needs, a bit the mapping of the international instruments as well. It would have been interesting from my point of view, but again, I will let Samia maybe come in a little bit on this. She may have more on-point observations, but to hear a little bit more about the constraints or the challenges that were potentially a little bit more specific to the sector. But I think, as I said, I think you've done a very thorough mapping, and it seems to me to be well aligned with both the content of the guide that served as the basis of the course and also of the model intervention that was shared. Samia, I will let you share your reactions as well, please.
Thank you, Mickey, and thank you to the team who drafted this PowerPoint presentation and addressed the case of Pedro. I think it was indeed very, very comprehensive. In my view, it really addressed the specific issues that seasonal agricultural workers can face. The fact that the temporary nature of their work, the fact that they work in remote areas, which is quite problematic in terms of outreach, the importance also to address all these more practical aspects. I really found, the measures that you proposed very well adjusted to the case. Same for the three branches that you had identified as the most appropriate or the most in need for such group at this point in their in the life of Pedro, coming to very close to retirement age. No, I think it was very good. I don't have much to add. Perhaps just a question of concepts. If you can go back to the key principles included in the social security agreements, I just wanted to flag that we have a slightly different way of mentioning the 5 key principles. I think you had one of the principle called portability, which is for us in terms of the terminology that we use is more the regroupment of the 5 principles that we call portability. I think you were more referring to the payment of benefits abroad. So it's but there is no internationally agreed definition of portability. So I would just suggest to, instead of using portability, which can be confusing because for us it's, as you rightly mentioned in the title, it's basically all these 5 key principles in a way. So perhaps to adjust portability and replace it by the payment of benefits abroad. The totalization of contribution periods, we have a slightly different wording again. It's more about the maintenance of the rights in the course of acquisition. But apart from that, I would say this is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you to Group 1. I wonder if there are any questions or comments from the other groups on the work that has been conducted by Group 1 on Pedro. And I see that also our colleague Clara has joined. So Clara, thank you for joining. I don't know how much you were able to hear of Pedro's group presentation, but if you would like to come in, please obviously feel free to do that if you were able to catch some of what the group has been discussing.
Hi, thanks, Miki. Thanks to the group. I was there from the start of the presentation. So, but I have nothing to add as compared to what Samia just said. I'm sorry, I'm a bit under the weather, a bit of a cold, but yes, no, I think in terms of terminology, it would be good actually to have some internationally agreed terminology, at least legally. And then, of course, per country can be very different. So it's I think Samia pointed it out rightly. It's not at all criticism. It's just it's more that we have to be clear about what we talk about whenever we mention portability, and often people have different definitions of it, and we've seen this in many different countries, and we also need to adapt to whichever definition exists at the country level, of course. But otherwise, I didn't hear anything else to add.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Clara, for coming in with this point. And thank you once again. Round of applause for group number 1 and their work on the Pedro persona. I would ask now group number 2, who worked on Mohammed, if they can take the floor. And just a note for the colleagues who are listening to us, the group number 2 is going to present in Arabic. So please make sure that you switch your interpretation channel to English if you wish to listen to the English interpretation. So I am not sure who the spokesperson for the group working on Mohammed will be, who the presenter will be. Fantastic. Thank you. Please. And over to you, Jilan.
هشام حضرتك ممكن تعرض الباوربوينت.
Can you please share the PowerPoint? But the voice is very low.
Is there any way that we can see if the voice can be made a little bit louder, either by speaking closer to the microphone if possible, or
تسمعيني جيدا دلوقتي؟
for the interpreters, is this a little bit better?
أنا أستعمل الهيد بيس. هل كده صوتي مسموع؟
Not really
هل تسمعيني
great.
دلوقتي؟ هي فيها built in mic.
Okay, using the built-in mic, I think.
We will try it. I'll do my best.
Thank you.
ده
Okay, please go
محمد
ahead.
هو مهاجر غير شرعي
So
ويعمل
Muhammad
بشكل
is an
محرم
illegal
لمدة
migrant.
سنوات
He
بناء
has
الإجراءات.
worked
قبل مجيئه إلى
informally
الهند عمل
as
لمدة عامين في
a
بلد
worker,
الأصل
and he has worked
على
for
بناء
2 years with
وساهم
a
في نظام التأمين
visa,
الاجتماعي
and he has contributed to the
في
social
لندن. كما
security
ساهم في
in
نظام
London.
التأمين
He has
نظام
also
الضمان الاجتماعي المجوري لمدة عام
contributed
ونصف.
to
والأهم
another
من ذلك في
conduct.
نظام
It's not
المعاشات
clear, even the
الافتراضية
Arabic
للقطاع
speakers can't
العام
hear her
قبل
correctly.
مجيئه إلى
So
الهند.
he had,
على الرغم من خوفه المستمر
and
من
despite,
الترحيل إلا أنه
excuse me,
يستطيع
that he has
دائما
always been
الإبقاء
afraid of
بعض
being
المال لإرساله إلى
deported,
عائلته
he has
للحفظ
always
بنفسه
tried to
ولصناعة طبيعة
transfer
عمل
money to his
نشاطه
family at the
لقطاع
same
البناء
time, and despite
وفوق الألم المزمن
the
الصعب
and or because
وبعض
of the
الخطوات
nature,
التي
the very
تتخذ
hard nature
الحقيقة
of his
الأخرى
work
التي
in the
تتطلب
construction
رعايته. مع ذلك
field,
فيحق
he
له الحصول على الحماية الاجتماعية في جرائمه ولا
had
يمكنه الحصول
chronic
إلا على الرعاية الطبية
pains in
الطارئة
his
كما أنه غير
back, and he
مسموح
was not able to
بالتأمين
get the
فيه
health
بجرم.
care, and he was not included in social security in the country where
هنا
he was
صديقنا
working.
محمد يعمل
And
في
here,
قطاع
our
الخدمة
friend
بالخطورة
Muhammad
يتحمل
is
ألما
working
مزمنا وهو
in a
عرضة
very
لطبيعة
risky
عمله.
sector, and
محمد
he is
مهاجر
really
غير شرعي
suffering and
ويعيش في
enduring,
قاسم
a
دائما
chronic pain. He is
وللأسف لا يتمكن من أي
also
نوع من التغطية
an
ويعيش في
illegal
واقع
migrant. He is
هش
always
على
afraid
الحدود
of
البينية.
being deported. He's living in a
بالنظر
very
إلى حالة محمد
precarious
فهو
situation in
بالفعل
his
في
host
حاجة إلى
country.
الدخول
Consequently,
تحت نظام
Muhammad,
الحماية
like
الاجتماعية
others,
التي
needs
توفر
to be
له
under the
المزايا
social
المهددة
protection
بالتأكيد من الفوائد
umbrella that
والمخاطر
provides
التي
him
قد يواجهها.
enough benefits for him to be protected from any contingency and emergencies.
ما هي المزايا أو الإعانات التي
What
قد
are
يحتاجها محمد؟
the
وهذا هو السؤال الأهم للبعض.
benefits or what is
محمد
the support
بالتأكيد
that
يتطلب
Muhammad
المساواة في
needs?
المعاملة مع
First of
مواطنيه
all,
الأصل
he needs to
فيما
have
يتعلق
equality in
بالضمان
treatment
الاجتماعي
with the citizens
والاستحقاقات
of the host
الوظيفية.
country with regards to
هو
the
يحتاج تأمين
security,
ضد إصابات
social
العمل ليحصل على
security,
التأمين
namely
في
the
حالة
benefits
العمل
of
الموقوف
work
عنه العمل
injury,
بسبب
and
إصابة.
also
وهو
regarding the
في حاجة
work
إلى رعاية صحية أساسية
injury, he
تضم
needs to
طبيب وأطباء
have
ومخصصين.
health
وهو في
care
حاجة أيضا إلى
that
شبكة
goes
أمان مفتوح
beyond
وحصين في حالة
the
المرض
emergency.
أو
He
العطف
needs
الطبي
also
عن
to
العمل،
have a,
إضافة إلى ضمان
revenue
الحفاظ على
security
حقوقه التقاعدية
network
للإفراج
that
عنها
would
في
protect
دول
him
أخرى.
from any
محمد أيضا
forced
في حاجة إلى إجراءات إدارية
stop of
مناسبة
work. He
للحصول على
also
استقطاب من
needs
الاقتصاد غير
the
الرسمي إلى الاقتصاد الرسمي.
facilitated administrative procedure
وهو
that would encourage him to
بالتأكيد في حاجة إلى الحماية
transfer
الكفاءة
or to
للحماية
transition to
المجتمعية
the
وهي تشمل
economy, to the
الاستجابة للعنف
formal
والعدوان
economy, and he
الاجتماعي
also needs the
والتدخلات
societal
الحقوقية ضد
protection that
المخاطئين.
encompasses any response against any violence that may be
ببساطة
gender-based
محمد يحتاج إلى
or
الحد
racial
الأدنى
based.
من
So
الضمان الاجتماعي
Muhammad
الذي يمنحه
requires the
فرص
minimum of
العمل
social security that
والعمل
provides
بكرامة
him
بعيدا عن
with
الخوف
a
الدائم من
life
الضغط أو
opportunity
الترحيل أو
and dignity,
الإقطاع
far from
بالعمل.
any fear of being deported or being
ومع ذلك
stopped
فحقوق
from
محمد ليست
work.
معدومة
Despite this,
رغم وضعه أمام النظام.
Muhammad's
فهناك أيضا
rights are
حقوق
not
دولية
guaranteed. So, as we
وقانونية
said, he is an
كاتفاقات
informal
الضمان
worker,
الاجتماعي
and there
وحقوق
are some
المرأة والإنسان
international
في
instruments and
المجال
legal
الأممي
instruments
والعالمي
that would
لحقوق
guarantee
الإنسان سنة
his right to social
1986
protection, like the
والعهد
right,
الدولي
like the
الخاص
human
بالحقوق
rights. We also
المدنية
have
والسياسية لعام
the uh,
1966 والعهد الدولي الخاص بالحقوق
International
الاقتصادية
Pact for
والاجتماعية والسياسية لعام
civil and political rights of
1966. هناك العديد من
1966,
الاتفاقيات
as well as
والتوصيات
the
تخص
International
بعمال
Declaration for Human Rights,
المهاجرين وبيانات أي
1946,
نظام.
and the Cultural,
تتم
Social, and
تلك
Economic
التوصيات
rights. So, in addition to
في
all these
توصية 204 عام
recommendations, excuse me, in
2015
addition to all
وتوصية
these conventions, we also have the
212
recommendation
وهكذا
204 of
وفق المسائل.
2015. It's in addition to all the other recommendations. Let us pass to the following slide.
هناك العديد من الخيارات السياسية التي يمكن
There
للدول
are different
اتخاذها في
choices
توسيع مسار
that states
الحماية
can
الاجتماعية
take
ليشمل
regarding
المهاجرين
the
غير
social
المرغوبين
protection in
بثلاث.
order to
أولاً
cover
الحصول على
the
اتفاقيات وتوصيات منظمة العمل
illegal
الدولية لا تصل
migrants. First of
وتمثيلها
all,
كخطة
the
إلى
ratification
خدمات
of the
الذات
international
والمعايير
conventions and
المنصوص عليها في القوانين
recommendations
المحلية.
as a first
ثم
step,
وضع
and
قانون
then
أو
to
مبادرة
align the
كون
local
خاصة
laws
بالتأمين
with them,
الاجتماعي في الدول
and to establish
مشمولة
the
بنصوص
local
تخص
laws in the
المهاجرين
countries,
وسبل
including all
سبل
the
تقنين
texts
الأوضاع
that
القانونية
may
بنهاية أيضا من القانون
cover the
وفتح
migrants, and to find the
والفتح
ways to codify or to
مدة منصوص عليها في القانون
open or to give a period of time for these illegal workers or illegal migrants who are working in the informal economy to transition to the formal economy. And also, of course, we have the bilateral and the multilateral agreements that may guarantee the rights of these workers.
من غير النظاميين يتم من خلالها تمديد
For
سن
the
التسجيل
informal workers, there may be some decisions and instructions coming from the Ministry of Labor for the employer regarding the migrant workers, especially the informal ones, through defining some specific conditions for them, establishing also some funds for the informal migrants in the host countries where the contribution may be paid, and consequently they can transfer these contributions to their original country or the country of origin, and to establish an official mechanism that will enable the migrant worker, the informal migrant worker, to transfer their benefits to their own country. And there is another need. The state needs to recognize the informal migrants because they are present on their land and they are working and contributing to the economy. We also need some complementary measures to deal with the administrative, practical, and organizational obstacles that are faced by the migrant workers, especially in the informal economy, and to establish or to collaborate with the international organization and civil society in order to strengthen all these efforts. In order for Muhammad's years of work not to be lost, especially those in Garami, so he needs, we need to have some international conventions that would coordinate between the social security systems amongst states. It needs to be clear, transparent, and guarantees the recognition of these people, even if they are in an illegal state or an unstable legal situation or status. Consequently, this will guarantee to Muhammad some funds or some revenue instead of losing all his years of work. So how many years did Muhammad contribute? If we make the calculations, we see that he has paid 3.5 years of contributions, 1 year and a half in Nogoria, 2.2 years in Norland, and then the contribution to Social Security. Consequently, the 3 years that he has had in Garami, and knowing the fact that he had worked hard, this is not calculated. And in case Muhammad pays the contributions to the Social Security, he would have had around 6 years and a half of contributions.
Next slide, please. مما سبق يظهر لنا بوضوح كيف
Based
كان
on that, how can we have all these informal workers lose a very big part of their rights just because they are working out of the legal system? I think we lost her.
It seems so. You are muted.
أنت على
Sorry, but the connection here is not stable.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
So based on which we see clearly how some informal workers may lose a very big part of their rights just because they are working out of the legal system, and consequently this prompts them to align or regularize and their situation or their legal status. Thank you very much. Apologies for the English audience. I tried to follow the slides as much as I can.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the interpreter as well for the effort in ensuring that we could follow along with the presentation, regardless of the sometimes challenges in connection. Um, and thank you to the group working on Mohammed for their presentation. It was quite engaging, including visually. I saw that you did some nice work to make it visually engaging. I think it seemed to me to be nicely aligned in terms of content flow. With the content and flow with the overall framework of the course, also in terms of the let's say the reasoning, the terminology, the terminology used and the policy options that were proposed. I will let again Samia and Clara potentially contribute with their views and their feedback, if any. And then if there are any questions or comments from the other groups as well. So Samia or Clara, if you wish to switch, and whoever wants to go first, please go ahead.
I'm not sure if Clara is still
On
Clara, would you
her
like to?
through her phone.
Okay.
I'm here, but please intervene.
Okay, sure. So thank you very much for the presentation. This was indeed very interesting. And no, I would like to congratulate you on highlighting some of the key challenges that indeed migrants in an irregular situation can face, and also underlying the fact that despite being in an irregular situation, they still have human rights and should get access to health care, not only in case of emergency, but that this is also very important to bear in mind that some may need further assistance than just basic access to social protection. So I found that very important. You mentioned the social security agreements. In this case, for migrants, usually in a regular situation, and those working in the informal economy, one of the key problem is that they usually do not contribute to formal social security systems, which kind of exclude them also from the scope of most social security agreements. But despite that, indeed, concluding such agreements can also be an incentive to engage into coordination and cooperation between origin and destination countries. And if these agreements are in place, it's also an incentive for migrants to work in the formal economy, or to try to regularize their status in order to get access to social protection during their migration journey. So important reference to social security agreements, even if legally they do not necessarily cover migrants in a regular situation. They are still important instruments for formalization purposes or regularization purposes. Yes, no, I think I'll stop here. I don't know if anyone else has questions or.
Thank you, Samia. Indeed, if there are any comments from the other groups or any questions, please feel free to ask. We're more than happy to hear. And the same for the other colleagues, but there doesn't seem to be anything at the moment. So let us, in the interest of time as well, let us move to group number 3, working on Igor. So please feel free to start sharing your screen if you wish. And please also feel free to take the floor directly. Group Igor.
Hi, can you hear me? I had a problem with my mic yesterday.
I can hear you very well.
Great. I'm trying to share my screen. Where would that be? Oh, yes, partager. Wait 1 second. Here you go. So we have a very attractive, I would like to already start, presentation. That looks slightly different from everybody else's, but maybe. Could everybody see it?
Yes, I
Okay.
confirm.
Great. Okay, so we're talking about Igor, and Igor is a Kyrgyzstanian citizen, married with one child, 39 years old. He's a migrant working in regular situation in another country, Brusinia, in construction sector. And he's being employed in the formal sector, formally, as well as in some cases informally. Just to give an overview of how he is like in his sort of like work experience. So he's done 7 years as a truck driver in construction sites. He's done contributions to social insurance systems, and also in Slonia 4.5 years. Also to the contributing to the social security system. Um, and also in Brusinia, working as a truck driver on construction sites. Afterwards, there was an oil crisis and recession, and a lot of construction industry was severe impacted with a lot of layoffs and downfall of a lot of construction companies. And in the last 3 years, he has been working sporadically and informally for short periods. His wife also works informally but more regularly. Now, what are some of the key social benefits, social protection benefits that's needed by him? Like everybody else, he needs online branches, but I think in this case, particularly, he is. I think the characteristic of this person or this profile is that he works in a sector that could be a little bit more at risk in terms of sickness and employment injury protection. So that could be an area that could special consideration potentially could be necessary. But other things include essential health care for him, his wife, his child, income security during unemployment, especially as we have seen the oil crisis impacted the construction sector a lot, and a lot of people was laid off at the same time. So this is something that also needs he and any others in the same similar situation would need support, so that they don't fall completely into poverty and so on. Other things with other social protection benefits needed would include things like maternity protection, healthcare, access for his wife, old age invalidity survivors' pensions, and also access to non-contributory social assistance programs to cover all risks in the life cycle. In the international legal instruments that it's important in this case are here. So they are so the ones on the social security minimum standards, equality of treatment, maintenance of social security rights, the one on migrant workers, and those on social protection floors, as well as those conventions, international conventions on, of course, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, International Convention on Economic, Social, Cultural Rights, and the protection of and the rights of all migrant workers and members of their families. These are all the relevant legal instruments that could potentially that are relevant for him in this case. Now, some policy options to extend protection to migrant workers in general. There are some extension of contributory schemes to informal workers through flexible mechanisms. This would and also strengthen and universalize social protection floors, promote formalization of employment in high informality sectors, including, like, for example, construction. And we've seen that his wife also works in restaurants, also informally. So that's another sector. And simplify administrative processes and ensure multilingual information, raise awareness of rights among migrant workers, strengthen labor inspections and compliance, establish or enhance bilateral, multilateral social security agreements, and providing access to justice and legal aid. Now, For the portability, what would ensure his portability of entitlements when working formally? So legally, there would be a need for social security agreements or as part of a labor agreement, either bilaterally or multilaterally, and they must include the portability of his entitlements, including during and after acquisition, and of the right and other things like such as non-double contribution and so on. And administratively, there needs to be data exchange between countries and ensuring payment record can be exchanged and verified. Um, and so on. And different forms must be set up to streamline administrative processes, among others. Practically speaking, it could benefit from having consular services in other countries to ensure coordination and ensure a channel of communication between Igor and the other countries. For example, for Igor to reach out and troubleshoot to verify things, and also for the countries to continue to verify, for example, his existence, if it's, for example, for pension and so on, to ensure that he continued to meet and he continued to be paid for his social protection benefits. And also, for example, to ensuring bank transfer can be done. And perhaps if the transfer fee is not prohibitively high, and for Igor to actually benefit from social insurance, meaning that now the rights are portable, but is it actually, he's only 35, so he could potentially continue to contribute more so that he'll be able to benefit later or so on. As we will see in the next slide, that he's only been contributing 14.5 years, and they may not, for example, if there is due to the oil crisis, a huge layoff and so on, what if he never finds another job to actually continue to contribute to it? So in the long run, there should be a formalization strategy, as we've talked about a little bit earlier, and then also flexibility, for example, in contribution to social protection system. For example, if to allow, for example, for him to pay retroactive contributions in cases where he does not meet the contribution years eligibility. For the years of contribution, so he's worked 7 years, contributed 7 years in Kizina, 4.5 years in Slonia, in 3 years in Brisna, in total 14.5 years, assuming that these are not overlapping, and it can be portable. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yoshiko. Thank you to the Igor group. Indeed, a very visually engaging, very creative type of presentation as well, but also very detailed in outlining the situation, so mapping the situation of Igor and outlining the potential options for response. Samia, maybe over to you, and then to Clara for some feedback from your side.
Thank you, Miki, and thank you to the team again for the very nice presentation, and which was indeed very engaging. So perhaps a few comments on my side. I think you rightly mentioned the fact that online branches in terms of social protection are relevant for migrant workers. Obviously, throughout the life cycle, this is very important. When you kind of then narrow it down to a few branches, I just wanted to highlight for the particular case of construction workers, not to forget the issue of invalidity. You mentioned the work injury benefit, but perhaps invalidity also benefit would be quite relevant to underline. With respect to the policy measures, I really liked your comment and the suggestion to extend contributory scheme to informal workers. And this is indeed something that is more and more being considered by a number of countries which have large large groups of workers in the informal economy, and this also perhaps just as a complementary information, many countries are trying to include informal economy workers to in mandatory social insurance schemes for self-employed workers. So this we have a few examples of countries who have done this. So something important indeed to consider. And also, as you rightly mentioned, the need for flexibility and perhaps to allow the retroactive payment or the retroactive contribution to social protection schemes when you indeed have some interruptions due to different factors, but still have some contributory capacity. So thank you again. I don't know if anyone else has comments. If Clara, you want to compliment, but yeah, very good. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention that this was a collective work. There are some colleagues that's not able to be here today, also including the one that designed all the presentation, Angie. She couldn't be with us today, but just wanted to mention that because I forgot. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you for highlighting the different contributions. It was very nice of you to share that little bit of information. If there aren't any other questions or comments from the other groups, we can then pass to group number 4. Once again, congratulations to the Eagle group. And we can move to group number 4 with Amina. I know that there was a little bit of misunderstanding on the presentation, but I'm hoping that the group can still present. I see that the screen is being shared by Hisham, and we'll be happy to hear from the Amina group. Colleagues, once again, please switch to the English channel if you wish to listen to the interpretation. Thank you, and over to you, Angie.
الصوت واضح كده؟ صوت
Testing,
واضح؟
can you hear my voice, says Angie.
الحقيقة أنا آسفة طبعا إن إحنا ما عملناش
I would like to apologize first and foremost because we did not prepare a PowerPoint presentation given that there was a misunderstanding. Regarding this case, this is the case of Amina. She is a 29-year-old lady married with a 3-year-old child. She is a refugee recognized according to the 1951 convention. Her nationality is from Norivia, and the host country is Norivia. She has fled from her country as a result of a violent conflict. She reached the host country with her husband and son, and she became a refugee officially after 1 year of her arrival. She's living in a semi-urban region alongside other refugees as well as the host community. Her husband sometimes finds work in the informal sector, in the construction sector to be very specific, and she also works part-time as a seamstress in a local workshop. She is also receiving support from an NGO. According to her status as refugee, based on the national laws, she is allowed to join the social security, but she is working in the informal sector and it's a part-time job. Despite the fact that the host country is providing her with health care, nevertheless, the clinic still asks her to pay some expenses. Amina is concerned from her future. She is concerned about healthcare and maternity care. She's afraid once she goes back to her home country, she's not sure if she can receive from her social protection based on the contributions she had paid in her home country. Now, regarding the questions, we studied the situation of Amina, and we looked at the most important social protection branches that will be needed. Based on the case of Amina in the informal sector with low income and a child that is sick with a chronic disease, then the family or the household requires healthcare. And furthermore, her husband also works in the construction sector where the risk of injuries is quite high. Based on the above, she requires healthcare as a result of the situation of her own child and her husband. Second, sickness. She will require sickness benefits and maternity benefits in case she gets pregnant again, given that she is only 29 years old. She may have another child. Furthermore, she would need care for her child, or she may need a certain amount of money to place her son or her child in the nursery in order to have a full-time job instead of a part-time job. Regarding work injuries benefits, this is also needed, and this is in addition to old age and pension benefits. This would increase her opportunities in the future and would ensure a decent life. Now, regarding the challenges faced by refugees, in particular women, when it comes to social protection. And here we're talking about the policy options in compliance with the 1951 Refugee Convention and the different relevant ILO conventions. This includes Recommendation 102 and 202. In the situation of Amina, there may be some sort of legal issues or legal challenges, especially since she is a refugee working in the informal sector. Second, there are no effective national security schemes in the host country, which requires more needs for social protection. She will face difficulties in paying the contributions, which would make her eligible for the benefits. For instance, if she worked for 3 or 4 years in the host country, and these years may not be added to any other years of service, so she might not be eligible for pension. She cannot probably benefit from the social protection in her home country, although she wishes to return back home, but this is certainly linked to the ongoing violence conflict. She is also working with a very low wage, and this is another obstacle. She does not have the capacity of accessing work in the formal sector, which will provide social protection for her. Things will become worse for her, especially since she is a woman, especially with women who have children. Although the law here provides for equal treatment between the refugees and the nationals in healthcare, nevertheless, the practice has shown that she cannot receive the necessary healthcare for her sick child except after paying for the cost of the treatment. There are also other practical obstacles in terms of access. We have applied this to the case of Amina, so we will see that her work is in the informal sector. The same applies to her husband, and therefore they cannot contribute to the social security, and there will be they won't be allowed to receive the benefits such as maternity, sickness, or pension. It is difficult for her to achieve a balance between her work and her family, and she may have to rely on humanitarian assistance, which can stop at any moment. There is very limited awareness about rights, and there is no bilateral coordination for portability of benefits between both countries, and she may lose the years of contribution in this case if she goes back home. The policy options to expand the social protection here is first the ratification of relevant legal instruments and ensure compliance of national applicable laws with international standards, especially the 1951 Refugee Convention. Second, establishing new social protection schemes or adapt the existing schemes in compliance with the minimum standards of social protection convention and to take into consideration the special needs of refugees and asylum seekers. There is a need for national legal frameworks for refugees and asylum seekers to access social protection, which will include provisions guaranteeing equality of treatments between refugees and citizens. Refugees should also have access to formal work. Also, measures should be taken to overcome obstacles, practical obstacles in particular. I would also like to add that the gender here also has a role. We need to provide more support to maternity and children through providing allocations for childcare, especially for working refugees, to support them and to enable them to work in the formal economy. The third question, let's suppose that Amina and her husband can pay contributions in the Social Security scheme in Norivia, the host country. What are, in this case, the measures needed to ensure the portability of benefits and sustainability of any benefits in case they go back home or in case of their resettlement? The required measures in this case are the following. First, bilateral or multilateral coordination, which is related to Social Security agreements. Norivia, the host country in this case, should conclude bilateral agreements with the host, with the country of origin, which is Liberia, in addition to other resettlement countries, which would guarantee the portability of benefits. Furthermore, the host country should keep records where the country registers the contributions for refugees or asylum seekers. Furthermore, there is a need for a mechanism to withdraw or to receive back the contributions in case the refugee is unable to meet the eligibility criteria. Question number 4. If Amina is continuously registered in the National Social Security scheme since her arrival, what would be the numbers of years of contribution? Amina reached the host country 4 years ago, but unfortunately, she was not registered officially. She received the official refugee status 1 year later. If she had been registered as soon as she arrived, she may have received social protection for 4 years since her arrival date. After her refugee status, had she been registered, she may also have 3 years of contribution, but that is not the case. She has not received any social protection, and although she received a refugee status, she has not been enrolled in the scheme. Thank you again for your attention, and I'm apologizing. I apologize given that I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angie. And indeed, it was a very thorough presentation. Let's say the idea of having a PowerPoint per se was not necessary. Indeed, I think you've done an excellent work, and it showed both in the document that you projected and in the discussion of the results that you presented. So excellent work to the group for covering Amina, and thank you so much for all your work. There is one point in the chat that seems quite relevant to me. Catherine is asking to also share links to the intervention models for the two groups that worked in Arabic on the eCampus. It's true that you are as your selected language is English, you will see the eCampus in English only, but all of the model interventions, as has been shared at the beginning of the course, all of the model interventions are available on the ILO website in English, and some of them in additional languages as well, but the Arabic translations were done in the context of this course specifically, so you will not find them online. But all of them are available in English, and we can make the link available again for your reference, so you can download all of them. There's a few more that we haven't used in the group work, but are still available for your review and for your reference, and we can make the link available on the eCampus. I will pass maybe to Samia or to Clara, considering the focus of this specific group. If you would like to share some feedback on the presentation being done by the group on working on Amina.
Should I go first then this? Okay. So thank you very much for this group work and for the presentation. And I think I missed a few parts at one point when the connection was not well. So I'm very sorry about that. I'll look at the document when we have the document later. That will be very interesting for us. Indeed, you highlighted several things that I wanted to highlight. Not all, of course, but just a few things. One was that for refugees, it's very important also to have access to the labor market to work. So indeed, this is a very good point. You highlighted that there's also need to address practical obstacles, also very important. And the gender aspect that you highlighted, very, very good. I mean, all the points were good, but also you highlighted this point of the delay in the refugee status determination procedure. So because of these delays, they also miss out on being covered or having benefits. So that's a very good point. What we see often with refugees is that often there's a kind of a parallel structure in place where they receive aid from a separate structure, from external agencies, from UNHCR or UNICEF or from NGOs. And actually, what we really want to promote, what is really promoted also in our international labor standards, is as much as possible to have refugees being included in national systems, so that there's no difference also between host communities and refugees. So this reduces tensions, it reduces problems. Sometimes refugees could, in some cases, get access to healthcare in refugee camps, but then the national population just outside the refugee camp doesn't have access. So it's this is one point. Also, it's better risk pooling when you include them in a national system, of course. It's more efficient. But I think, yes, I think all the points you made were very, very good, and I actually look forward to reading the document when I get the document and the translation. So thank you. Maybe Samia wants to add.
No, thank you. Thank you. Also from my side, I really found the presentation very useful and comprehensive, and I don't have much to add. Thank you.
Thank you both. And indeed, Clara, we will make the translations available both for the presentations that we received in English. The translation into Arabic will be made available, and the same for the presentations received or the submissions received in Arabic. The English translation will be made available. Thank you then for this. If there aren't any comments or questions from the other groups on the work that has been done by the Amina group, one virtual round of applause, I would say, for the Amina group, and then we can pass to the last group, which is the group focusing on Luz Marie. I will be sharing, if I'm not mistaken, the screen on my side. Okay. And it should be like this. You can let me know if you can see my presentation in full screen. It should be okay. These are the team members, and I understand that it's going to be Mezge Bework who will be presenting, if I'm not mistaken. So please, you have the floor.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm representing the group 5, and I will be presenting briefly. And when you see the situation of Luz Maria, and Maria is a migrant domestic worker, and she has been working on 3 households for 6 years, and the first employers didn't register her. And she has a fear of she has a fear on while they are returning to her Phoenix without social security. So mostly she's a domestic worker. And the main challenge, the core challenge is monitoring compliance in private household is difficult, creating high exploitation risks. There might be a high risk of exploitation. So the key questions will be, how can migrant domestic workers access to this social across borders? So the group has discussed and come up with different answers regarding to 4 questions. And the first one is, the social protection benefits needed by LUS. So we have been discussing with these issues, and we have suggested so many social protection issues to be needed by Luz Maria. One is the health protection. The health protection should be there, and accessing to the health care is in case of illness should be there. Migrant domestic workers are often, faced with different lack of health insurance in many cases, so that this coverage should be given to her. And also unemployment protection Can you pass to the next? Sorry. Yeah. So most important need, social protection need for Luis Maria is, health protection, access to health care for illness or injury should be there, and most migrant domestic workers lack such kind of coverage. So she needs that, and also unemployment benefit, cash support during job search, crucial for return, especially when she was returning back to Finis. There might face of unemployment, so that kind of benefit is needed by Leo. Luz, Maria, and old age benefit, pension, also income security in retirement is mostly affecting these domestic workers, immigrant domestic workers, so that such protection should be given, and it is a need for her as well. And also employment injury insurance, protection for work-related accidents, for lifting chemicals, because they are vulnerable for those kind of incidents, so that this employment injury is very important for her her social protection benefits. And also maternity protection, she might have different cases of different cases related to pregnancy and different kinds of issues related to maternity, so that she can have such kind of protection as well. And also survivor and disability benefit is among the recommended needs of Luis Maria. Next. And the second one is the challenge. There are many challenges, key challenges faced by migrant workers, especially for those who are working in domestic cases. So I'm going to present you the most key challenges, as well as policy options to extend this social protection for domestic workers like Luz. There might be, the key challenge, there might be marginalization. Domestic workers are mostly marginalized, and, they might face such kind of issues. So domestic workers are viewed as having no right by themselves in the society, so that they can be marginalized. So this is the main challenge for them. And also poor organization. Sector lacks collective defense structure. There must be collective self-defense structure and organization and representation, so that poor organization might be a challenge for those domestic workers. And also informal employment in workers remains unregistered. For instance, missing contribution and benefits. For instance, she has, an instance of not registered in one family. For instance, in her case, in one family, the family was not registering her, and this kind of informal employment and registration characteristics might be very challenging for domestic workers, and also multiple employer. For instance, those were employed in different multiple employers, and one of the employers are not is not is not registering here in the social protection scheme, so that this multiple employer working in the multiple employer might be challenging for domestic workers as well. And the lack of awareness, mostly the migrant domestic workers lack awareness related to how to access the benefits and portability of schemes. So since Luz didn't register in overseas work programs, so that she can have a challenge. And also there might be legal barriers challenged or faced by migrant workers like Luz. So some countries exclude domestic workers for the mandatory insurance. So this might be a key challenge for her. Next. So to overcome such challenges, there are many policy solutions to policy options to extend protection for domestic workers, so that we can recommend for her. So perception, social change, work to shift the society's view towards the domestic worker is one of uh, the key solution to extend, to value or to give protection for domestic workers as well, and also promote utilization or encourage representation. There must be a collective defense of the rights of this sector. Most of the domestic workers have been facing in different areas in different countries, so that such issues are recommended. And also mandatory coverage, including domestic workers in the national social system, is also recommended. So the countries all the nations have, recommended to have, mandatory coverage or any kinds of schemes or illegal backing towards the protection of, domestic workers. And also simplify contributions. For instance, there are many kinds of contributions so that the domestic workers can be included in the protection system, in the social protection system, so that the countries might simplify their contributions, either voucher system or mobile money or any kinds of, any kinds of form of contribution, so that domestic workers can contribute. So most of the migrant workers and domestic workers might have different challenges regarding to their contributions or the possibility of contributions toward this social scheme, so that we are recommending to have such kinds of simplified contributions. We are recommending to have a bilateral agreement among nations that lose are working, so coordinate social security rights and probability portability between countries should be there between two countries that we are indicating in the case study. The bilateral agreement and coordination should be there, and we are recommending that so that extension of protection is as implemented toward these domestic workers, and also strong enforcement. There must be strong enforcement, inspection, and also sanctions for non-registration or labor agencies. For instance, there might be non-registration from the failure of the employer. There must be strong enforcement among the implementing agencies. And lastly, we are recommending awareness campaign or educate workers, domestic workers, towards their rights and and registrations in both countries. So these are the policy options that can be able to extend protection to the domestic workers. Next. The other one is portability of her social. We have been discussing on ensuring portability of her social insurance entitlements. Mechanisms. There must be mechanisms to put in place to enable lose to have portability type of portability application of her benefits. There are mechanisms. There must be bilateral social security agreements. There must be a possibility of ensuring portability of her benefits through bilateral social security agreements, and also there must be administrative coordination among two countries, and also digital personal account, or there must be data communication among these countries. So we recommend the portability to be realized based on these mechanisms. So totalization of period principles of totalization of periods will be the combination of years working in Belem with Finnish contributions to qualify for totalization, and also eco-portability benefits should be there. Receive benefits even after returning to Pelis will be considered, and maintenance of rights. Pension entitlements earned in BLM remains valid, and also at a minimum through lump sum payment, and also avoid double contribution. These are the principles that can ensure portability of her social insurance entitlements. Next. So the number of contributions, as we are agreed, number of years of contributions, if she had contributed throughout their entire career, total contribution will be 8 years. So she has been working as an online salesperson in Venice for 2 years. BLM family one and family two. She was working as in two families. It accounts 4 years, and also family three in 2 years. Despite there are unregistered, the employer in family one is not registering here, but if Luz had contributed consistently throughout the entire career, she might have 8 years of contribution so that she can get benefits. So these are our presentations, and I would like to thank all the group members for their contribution. Thank you. Over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much to the group. I see that there's a lot of reactions already in the chat. Clapping hands, a round of applause definitely for group number 5 working on Luz Maria. Also a heart from one of your team members. So I will let maybe Samia and then Clara, if she's still online, come in with some potential feedback, and then we can hear if there is anything. Any comments or reactions or questions, if there are, from the other groups as well. But I see a lot of thank yous from your group members as well already in the chat. Samia, over to you.
Thank you so much for the presentation of this this case of Luz Mary. It's a very interesting and very important, I think, issue, and you really addressed in your presentation some of the main challenges that domestic workers face in accessing social protection. I would say the first one, be it that in many countries, domestic work is not recognized as work. And for that reason, migrant domestic workers and domestic workers in general are excluded from labor law or social security law. And this is definitely one of the key challenges that you have highlighted. And acting not only at the legal level, as you mentioned, but also at the society level, trying to change the behavior. And I found this very, very important in your presentation. As to address not only the legal aspects, but also the more practical issues, addressing the issues of discrimination against this group of workers. And thank you very much. I found also the policy options that you put forward very, very important. And also these that you are not only looking at the policy measures, the reforms that need to be undertaken, but also how to ensure that they are not just keep at the design stage, but really enforced and implemented practically on the ground, suggesting also like enforcement mechanisms, possible sanctions for non-registration, and putting these the registration of migrant domestic workers not only as something voluntary but mandatory is, I think, very, very strong. So thank you again. Thank you to the team. You did a very, very good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Indeed, we cannot help but share the sentiment. Clara, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to complement.
No, that's okay. Bravo
Fantastic.
to the group.
Excellent. Thank you. And if I may, thank you also to all the groups for your excellent timekeeping, which required absolutely no intervention on my side, and managed to take us all the way to 3:29, so 1 minute to spare. We were able to respect our schedule as well for today, which is always a good thing, also for the interpreters working relentlessly in the background to ensure that the course is accessible in both languages. I think with this final round of congratulations to all the groups for the hard work that they've put in throughout the past few weeks, we can move towards the official closing of this course. As you know, for those of you who are interested in pursuing a certificate of achievement, the work is not finished yet. We're going to be asking you to submit a final assignment, which, as you have heard already, is going to take the form of a short essay on a topic of your choice, linked to the topics addressed throughout the course. More detailed information on the deadlines and the modalities for submitting your final assignment will be shared on the eCampus through and will be shared to you as well, circulated through a notification between this evening and tomorrow. And you will have a couple of weeks after the end of the course to finalize all your online activities as well as your submission if you wish to pursue a certificate of achievement. Let me just take this opportunity to remind you that only the certificate of achievement is eligible for the diploma for labor migration experts and practitioners. So if you have the diploma in your radar, if it's something that you would be interested in completing, then the final assignment becomes mandatory. We will still be around for a few weeks before the end of year break to answer any additional questions that you may have or to guide you, to support you in completing all the requirements for the course. And apart from that, we have come to, let's say, to the end of this learning journey. So let me take the opportunity to thank Clara and Samia, who have been instrumental in helping us put together the content and the flow and the structure of this course, which is largely based on the guide that they had developed and that you have found divided into chapters week by week, but also to the colleagues who have made it possible for us to offer the course in Arabic this year as well. So Rozan, who is not here today. Yes, I see that there's a question. Please, Yoshiko.
Yes, thank you very much. No, I just wanted to make sure because I see on the eCampus the quiz for weeks 5 and week 6. It doesn't seem to have any questions. I don't know if they're supposed to be there, or is it meant to be that there's no question, no quiz?
No. Good point. No, the questions
Thank
are
you.
being added at the moment because we've had a bit of a glitch on quiz number 5. And quiz number 6 is going to be opened as usual on the Friday of the week, so it will be available starting from tomorrow. As I said, you will have some time so the quizzes are not going to disappear after the last formal and day of the course, which is tomorrow. They're going to remain open for about a week to allow you time to complete all of them. So they're supposed to have questions. We're working on it because we've had a bit of an issue with the quiz number 5, and quiz number 6 will be opened tomorrow at the latest. Once again, sorry, let me go back to my my thanks. So I mentioned our consultant Rozan, who has worked on ensuring that the platform would be available together with all of the material, including the activities, the quizzes, the forum of discussions, and so on, and the interactive modules will be available in Arabic as well. And also a big thank you to the interpreters working behind the scenes, as I mentioned, to ensure that all the live sessions could be accessible in both languages as well. And of course, to Hisham for his support and coordination throughout these weeks. Thank you all as well to all of you who chose to participate in this course and who managed to stick with us until the end. And we're really looking forward to seeing what the impact of participating in this course will be for you in the next few months and few years. So please stay in touch. Let us know if let us know, let's say, what the real life repercussions and the real life impacts of what you have learned throughout this course is going to be. And with that, I think we can officially close. Maybe if you can all open your cameras for a quick minute, all those of you who are able to, we may be able to take one last virtual group photo, taking advantage of the fact that so many of you are connected today and that Samia and Clara are here as well. Grazie, Marco. Fantastic. So I'll give you maybe one quick minute to still open, those of you who are able to. And then one quick screen capture. So 3, 2, 1. And voila, done. Thank you so much. And thank you for participating. Hopefully we will see you again online very soon in one of our activities or in person as well. Thank you
Thank you
all
very much.
and
Thank
goodbye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mickey.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you all.
much.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
Masalama. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.